Hello and welcome to MyFusion Helper. My name is Troy Broussard, and in this quick video I'm going to show you how the Route It or Smart Link feature works inside of MyFusion Helper. I'm going to start out by just kind of going through the how it works and how to configure it and how to set it up. So we're going to go through that in the utility in a live demo. And then after that we're going to dive into the Infusionsoft side and I'll show you how to deploy it in Infusionsoft and use it properly. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about some different use cases for how to get the most out of it and some of the best cases for practicality of using it in your business. All right, so let's jump right in and take a look at how to set it up first. Okay, so we've already logged into MyFusion Solutions and we have it here on the screen. And what we'll do is we'll go create a helper and we're going to create a Route It helper, Smart Redirects, whatever you want to call it. It's doing both of those features, and we'll just call this a routing test and go ahead and configure that. Now I've got one already active and deployed and we're going to use that in the sample that I'm going to show you, but I wanted just to walk you through the process so that you understand how to use this properly. First of all, this is one of our favorite and most powerful helpers in the application. This is probably in the top 3 in terms of usage and popularity. Everybody loves this because there's so much power to it. People like to call it dynamic thank you pages, and that's part of what it really does, but that's kind of oversimplifying it. There's so much that you can do with it, but at the end of the day, that is what we do. We're allowing you to, instead of send a person to one fixed path or one fixed thank you page from your web forms in Infusionsoft or from your order forms or anywhere else, we're allowing you instead to use dynamic logic inside of Infusionsoft to route them on to multiple possible locations based on a set of criteria. So let's dive into that. We can set the criteria in a few different ways. Now, we allow you to choose tags. We also allow you to use fields. And we also allow you to use orders. So the reason for these different distinctions is there's some really powerful things that we can do when we move this just beyond tags. By allowing you to choose fields, we can do things off of date criterias, which will allow some really interesting stuff that I'll walk through here in some examples. And then by being able to pull in order history, you may want to look for specific order history to route them based upon that as well. So we give you all 3 options. It's really up to you. Now, if we start out here with tags, we can select whether the tag is present or not, or whether the tag was applied within a certain window of time or outside of a certain window of time. This gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how to use those tags, not just whether they have the tag or not, but actually the time frame that it was applied. So you can select the tag, and then we go in and set the value and the URL. Now, if this is tag is present, the value is just true or false, and then the URL is where we want to send them. So for example, maybe I want to send them to yahoo.com or something like that, right? But of course, that's not where I'm going to send them. I'm going to send them some type of an offer. But if they have a specific tag here that is, of interest to us, let's say they're a dentist, then we want to send them to one landing page. And if they're a hygienist, we want to send them to another, for example. So that would be a possibility here where based on their avatar type, we could send them to a different specific landing page. Okay. Now, the part to understand about the interface is that you can add multiple criteria. So I can come on here and do the same thing here and say tags present, and then I did the hygienist. So let's go there. And so this one could be for the dentist, then we'd send them to a different URL. Now, lastly, we have this fallback URL down here at the bottom. Now, if the contact passes through both of these tests that we put in place here, and they don't fit into either one of these criteria, then they're going to go to the third URL, which is the fallback URL. Okay, so think of this as 2 different divisions and branches that we could send them to based on these conditions, but we still have to send them somewhere if they don't fall into any one of these 2 conditions. Okay, so many people will only use one condition. Sometimes you may have 5 or 6 here. It's really up to you. Now, one of the common questions that we get is, is what happens if this person, I'm doing a tag split like this and they have both tags. What's going to happen? What is the system going to do? Well, in that case, the system's going to send it to the first match that it finds. So if this person was tagged inappropriately and it was tagged as both a hygienist and a dentist, which they can't be both, right? They're one or the other. But if they were tagged as both of those, then the tag is present for the hygienist. So it would match that and it would send them to the URL we had specified here, and it would never check this other one. Okay, so just understand that these do have an order of precedence that has an impact as well. Now, you can create multiple criteria here as much as you want, or just have a single criteria and the fallback. It's totally up to you. Now, one of the other things to keep in mind is going off of fields. When we go off of a field, you have the ability to go off of numeric fields, or you can also go off of date fields. Now, the date field is very, very powerful, especially when you're doing any type of consultative type business where it's based upon talking to people in person, and you can see, if you have an appointment date field, and you can say, if I've talked to him within the last 30 days, then send him to this URL. And if I haven't talked to him in the last 30 days, then send him to this other landing page, right? So we can use those date fields to give a lot of different options here within the past, or within the next or last X amount of days, or if it's in the past, or if they have an appointment marked in the, in the future, or if they had one in the past, right? We can do all kinds of different criteria here around dates. We can also do criteria around numeric fields and choose that appropriately. So those are another core set of options that you can do that are field-based. And then the last option here that we can choose from is you can go off of orders, and you can set some criteria and then look at their last order, and whether the invoice total is greater than a certain value, you could send them here. So let's say you want to segment based on their most recent purchase, and people that have bought at a certain threshold, you want to make a conditionally different offer because they have a higher spending threshold than somebody else. This gives you the ability to use that order history as well, and then once again still have a fallback. So the best practice here is to divide these up and create the different segments that you need, but then have a generic catch-all segment for any of those that slip through. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create this. I'm going to go back and show you the one that I did create and the one that is already deployed that I'm going to show you the test on. So you can see this one, it's run a few times here, and we can go in and view this, and I want to just kind of show you how the test is set up so that you can see it working real time. So in this particular one, I'm using some tags, and if they've got the tag set, I send them to Yahoo. If they've got the other tag set, I send them to Bing, and if they don't have any tags, I send them to Google. Okay, so very simple based on the presence of two tags. So let's go into Infusionsoft now and show you how that works. Okay, so here we are inside Infusionsoft, and you can see that this is a very simple sequence. There's nothing in it. I'm just trying to show you how this functions and not cloud you down with all kinds of other, ancillary stuff. So what we're really showing you is how to do a dynamic redirect. And the way this works is that inside of the helper, when we copy the URL, so when we come back here and look at our list of helpers, and we copy that link, okay, then inside of here we paste that link in. And the one thing that we want to make sure that we do is that we pass the contacts information to the thank you page. Okay, this is imperative. If you don't click this little checkbox, this will not work properly. So please let me repeat that. You're going to paste it in, and then you have to check this pass the contacts information. What that does is it tells us who the person is, and so then we can go and look up their tags and tie it in and do the redirects appropriately based on that logic. Okay, so that's all there is to configuring this. Now, you could also put this on an order form thank you page, or a landing page thank you page. Anywhere that you can use a thank you page link, you can do that. You just have to make sure and pass in the information. Now, the logic we set up, and I showed you, is either going to go to Yahoo or Bing or Google as a default. So if we go run this, here's the form, and we run this for my email address, and let me just pull up and show you first of all. So here, if I hit refresh, and we take a look at this email, and here it has no tags assigned to it. So this would be the default situation right now. And so if I come in here and run it for the default, you're going to see it's going to redirect, and it's going to go to the default Google. Okay, now I'm going to go rerun the test again, but first I'm going to apply a tag. So we're going to come in here and we're going to apply the route test A tag. Okay, now on this condition, and then we're going to rerun it. So now the person falls into a different bucket because they have that tag applied. And so we can rerun the test, and now you'll see it redirects them onto Yahoo. Okay, again, I know Yahoo and Google and Bing aren't where you're sending people, but it's just to illustrate the dynamic nature of it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete A, and I'm going to add B instead, because remember, if it's got both of them, it satisfies both of them, it's always going to go to the top one. Okay, so I'm going to add route B to the option now, and that's what tag I now have. And now I'm going to rerun this same test again, and I can go in here and rerun it, and now it's going to route, and it's going to send me to Bing. Okay, so as you can see, this is really dynamic and powerful. Obviously, you're going to send them to more creative and useful pages than search engines, but if you can just follow the logic here of being able to just with a simple tag or with more advanced features like dates and times to be able to send people anywhere they want, or based upon the presence of certain fields or order history, you can see that these smart redirect links are very powerful indeed. All right, so let's jump back in here and just talk about some of the examples and how you can use these in best practices. Now, the first, most common uses are with upsells and being able to conditionally offer upsells based upon purchase history. Understanding what somebody's bought recently and then offering them a different upsell path is, very, very important to converting people at a higher level. If they've already bought the product that you're offering, then why would you offer it to them again? It just doesn't make any sense. So having smart upsells based upon purchase history is one very good use case for these helpers. Now, a second is doing the upsells, but this time being conditional upon tags or interests. So maybe you have your list segmented very well and articulated various different interest types, and depending on what their interest type is, you may want to offer them a YouTube training as opposed to a Facebook training based on whether or not they showed more interest in YouTube or Facebook, as an example, right? Well, you could use interest-based tagging to then dynamically offer an upsell as well. Now, it doesn't just work with upsells, though. These smart links and events can work off of date field logic as well. And I showed you that how you could select the field option and look at a special an event, whether they, attended an event in the last X amount of period of time or something like that. So if you run either live online virtual events, or if you run in-person events or seminars, being able to dynamically adjust your message based on somebody's attendance record or their registration for a future event or something to that logic, there's a lot of possibilities there as well. Okay, so hopefully this has given you a few ideas and things that you can use this for in your business, and I hope you enjoyed this brief video. As always, reach out on the help desk at help@myfusionsolutions.com if you need any help.